Hello, ladies and gentlemen, once again, and welcome back to the ISR AIC. We are here for round 2, finally, at the lovely city of Budapest in Hungary, at the Hungaroring, for our Hungarian feature race here today for round 2. Joining me once again is Zach Swader. We're here in a very hot and humid Hungaroring, as it very usually is throughout the F1 calendar, and last time out it was Reinis Melngailis that took the victory.
Yeah, it was, Toby. It was a fantastic start out for the ISR Black Diamond team, as of course they finished 1 and 3rd respectively, which was Toby Byrne's highest finish in AIC since season 1. And we even saw Gareth Lennon finally make a comeback after a difficult 2 seasons, especially in the DTMs, finished 2nd, splitting the 2 ISR Black Diamond cars. So it's a very good performance for him. So they're going to be looking to try to keep the performance up and hopefully get a pretty good season, because, you know, everyone wants to see, you know, ISR actually have a decent season for once, because they've struggled the past couple of seasons with only a few wins, both coming from Reinis and Melngailis respectively. So, but it was a fantastic race though, so everyone's going to be hoping to, if they had a poor performance last time out in Australia, they'll be looking to rebound this one, because it is still early on in the season, so you really want to get that early charged momentum.
For sure, and we're now in a part of the season where downforce is becoming more of a big player. Of course, Melbourne has some downforce orientated parts, but for the majority of it, you could get around there with a pretty slick car. Hungary this week, as we know, is a very downforce orientated circuit, which is why the minds of like Adrian Newey with Red Bull Racing always do well here in Formula 1. And then next week we jump off to Magny Core for round 3, another very high downforce circuit, and the week after that we jump into Taruma, which again is another extremely high downforce circuit. So this part of the season is that we're going to see which teams are better in the straight lines and which teams are more focused on those cornering. And I think whoever does well here in Hungary will do well for the next 2 races at least.
Yeah, I know, and Hungary is one of those tracks it's not as big and crazy as Spa would be, but there is some longer straightaways that the teams and drivers are going to have to deal with today, especially than Australia, because Australia only has the front straightaway kind of you have to worry about, and then the second DRS zone just after the first chicane. And so really you have to focus on, do you want to actually be able to overtake someone on the straight line speed? And of course, we haven't really seen what these cars can do in a straight line speed yet. I mean, Australia wasn't a big enough track to see what kind of top speeds these guys can do. But the front straightaway here is a lot longer, a little bit, than Australia, I do believe. And so it'll be interesting to see if they can get the toe behind someone and be able to get that overtake. But yeah, should be an interesting see what these guys can do if they want to master the downforce or try to get a little bit more extra top speed today.
Could be an interesting variation, but we'll see how it all begins when we go take a look at qualifying. So as we take a look at qualifying for the Hungaroring, once again, for the first time in a while, Zach Swader takes pole position for the first time ever for WSR Mercedes after being rebranded from Autoback 765. He takes pole position with a 125.145, and just half a tenth behind him, lining up in second, is Colin McAllister for Iron Brew Racing, showing that they are improving on their form from Melbourne, solidified by the fact that Gareth Lennon lines up in 3rd position behind him, promoting an Iron Brew 2nd and 3rd row respectively. Evan Imre puts his Force Fizzy up in 4th place, maybe a resurgence to come for them. 5th place will be Nickel Foggy ahead of Stephen Paul and Nut Martinson, for reinforcing the Force Fizzy resurgence. 8th place will be Christopher Petterson, race winner.
Alright, so our boys from last week at Australia, Reinis Melngailis and Toby Byrne, start out 9th and 10th, so they got a little bit of ground to do if they want to get more points to keep going for their team championship. Danny Diaz starts out 11th, Charles McPhee 12th, and Colin Spencer starts 13th. And so this is kind of not the performance that he wants from him. He's got to have a little bit of ground to make up too, because he had a pretty decent finish in Australia. 14th is Douglas Anderson, and cool story here though, Toby. 15th and 16th of Jonathan Carrero and Taylor Lane. They set the exact same lap time, but because Jonathan Carrero got his lap in before Taylor Lane, he will start 15th, so that puts Taylor Lane in 16th.
Behind that cool fact in 17th is Chester Jackson of Team EQU, struggling to get his Team EQU car this season off to a good start. Joshua Wood lines up in 18th, 7.5 tenths off his teammate on pole position. Kevin Jacobs lines up in 19th Motorsport NORL, and lining up at the back is Craig Evans for Northern Lights Racing. It seems like a lot of guys here are struggling compared to their teammates, Zach, so that could reinforce the fact that we were saying that some teams may be going a split strategy and seeing what is better. So some cars could be, one car in the team could be running high downforce, whereas the other could be running low. That's just one of my theories for why we're seeing like Kevin Jacobs, Joshua Wood, Chester Jackson and Craig Evans all massively off the pace of their teammates.
Yeah, that is something, and the only two guys that are really keeping up their performance from last weekend, being Australia, is of course Zach Switter and Gareth Lennon. Gareth Lennon finished second, splitting the ISR boys, and he's actually starting third. So it's very interesting there because both Jonathan Carrero, Joshua Wood, and Spencer are starting out mid to rear field. So those are the only two guys really, if I'm not mistaken, that are actually keeping their pace from Australia. So it'll be funny to see how that plays up. But Zach Slater has got two Iron Brew cars behind him, and I can tell you one thing: Gareth Lennon is known for his dive bombs. So he'll be having to watch out for it. So it's kind of funny how in the real life Super GT it was kind of a reverse deal, because in Tsukuba, if you guys keep up for the ISR social media, kind of a reverse situation here. So maybe the AI can actually mimic the same thing there.
We'll have to see what happens as we get ready to start round 2 of the ISR AIC Season 3 Championship. Stay tuned. So here we are then at the lovely Hungaroring in Budapest, Hungary for round 2 of ISR AIC Season 3 in a lovely little GP2 open wheels from 2006. 2006 race here at Hungaroring in the real GP2 was very exciting. Remember, we've seen many exciting races here ever since. Can we see some more of that action notched down in the Hungaroring history books? Here today, courtesy of the ISR AIC. Zach Swear will be joining me along commentary, and we can see that the stutters have been completely removed, and unfortunately so is our lovely hood, but we will make do with what we're used to, and you can see your grid then lining up. Zach Swear sits on pole position ahead of Colin McAllister, and it will be a big old lot run down to turn 1. The green flag goes now, and we are racing, and look at the start from Evan Imre. That's a terrific start, going side by side with Gareth Lennon already, maybe challenging Colin McAllister as they go into turn 1. Doesn't look like it for now. They bang wheels a little bit, trying to give each other as little room as possible, but Evan Imre goes down the inside and gets second place. That's McAllister going wide. Now his teammate, not Martinson, makes contact in the background with a GTFG. We got a lot of carbon fibre going around in the background as a result of that, but it looks like Evan Imre has got second place. No, he's gone really wide, and so is that Colin McAllister gone really wide as well, and he's lost a whole bunch of positions. We ride on board now with the champion of Martinson. He's under pressure from Reinis Melngailis, who's going to look to go around the outside. Martinson doesn't have a front wing, so that should be easy pickings, and it is. And the EQU and the WSR of Wood will all follow him through, and that, Zach Swader, is Chester Jackson without a rear wing and Craig Evans without a front wing.
And that was a bit of a chaotic start, but in all of that, Zach Swader got a lightning start out of the gate. He looked like he was on a motocross race going pole shot, as all the cars are going to see, I believe that's one of the Iron Brew cars, comes in contact, and hopefully he didn't lose any more of his front wing shards, and we get more contact. I believe that's one of the Matla cars. Can't tell if that's Dougie Anderson making contact with there. You couldn't see from the T-bar, but a lot of first corner chaos as the Iron Brew cars just had a very terrible start. Both of them literally, as we get a safety car now to try to clean up all of this debris here, so that'll give us a chance to go through what happened here as we see one of the Black Diamond cars actually slowing down too. Maybe a bit of damage here is up. Here we go. That's believed, Toby. I think that was, is that Busy making contact? So I think the stewards ain't going to have a bit of a say in that, will they?
I'm not sure who that was. I think that would have been Evan Imre, because Fizzy will, of course, have to come in and pit for a new front wing. But you can see the Camaro safety car deployed at the front of the field, and Zach Swerder with an enormous gap. Look at the gap he gained on the field, and that is heartbreak for him to watch that gap just absolutely disappear, and he will see everyone behind him again. But it will give us a chance to take a look at just what went on in the opening laps. I'm sure we'll get some replays soon, but we can see who is that. There is a black diamond car we're focusing now. It looks like he's dropped a bit down the order, and I think that's Reinis Melngailis has lost a lot of positions because somehow he's ended behind Wood. Wood, of course, has had a very good start because he started near enough last, and you can see the Mevius JSRs back there as well, so lots of people losing handfuls of position. A little battle coming out the pit lane now between Martinson and Evans. They will do battle at the back of the field, but no overtaking for now, boys. You got to get back to the safety car. There's an EQU car there leaving the pits as well, and I believe that's Jackson, so second race in a row for Jackson where he's been taken out on the opening laps. But here's what happened, Zach.
All right, so here we go. Nut Martinson on board. This will kind of give us an idea of who he hits. Coming into the first one, you see the Iron Brew cars just get forced out wide, and yep, he comes in contact, of course, with one of the GTFG cars, and so that pretty much sent his front end just launched straight up, and you see one of the NRL boys, I believe that was Christopher Pedersen, going around him. There we go. On board now with Colin McAllister. And it's kind of funny here in Hungary because that's actually the same kind of instance that happened with Red Bull Racing a couple years ago here. And so that is actually one of the things that, this track is known for. It's going to have its first corner chaos, and that shows you teammates just, two doesn't go into one here, of course, with the Iron Blue cars.
So it looked like he went a little bit wide and lost those positions. But look at this start, Zach, from Evan Imre, the Scotsman in the Force Fizzy. Was able to get alongside Lennon straight away and even challenge for second going into turn one up the inside of Colin McAllister. And look at that, he locks up the rears and almost loses it into the side. Maybe that's why Gareth Lennon took avoiding action, hit into the side of his teammate, avoiding that. But for right now, it's very good for Evan. Until this point here, misses his braking point, can't get it slowed down, in almost identical fashion to McAllister, has to hold on to the rear end, but manages to save it in third place. So all in all, not a bad start. And here's Kevin Jacobs towards the back of the field, Zach.
We're now with Kevin Jacobs here, and let's see what happens. Don't know what this actually could be. Big Gaggle comes up ahead as we see. Oh, there goes Chester Jackson's wing. Yep. So that, I believe that was Evans. Believe what happened between those two. That's why they were in the pits there. The EQU car has no rear wing, so that's a massive break for him. And if this was actual Formula One, he would actually have a DNF because in actual Formula One, you are not allowed to continue after I believe you knocked your front wing off. So very lucky, different rules here in AIC, but yeah, very tough break, unfortunately. And funny thing is, hopefully we won't have another safety car end up into the wall as we did at the Indy race in Detroit. As we go right here, safety car back in the pit, and we're going to go racing back again. Zach Swader going to get another massive jump on the Iron Brew car. I believe the second place Iron Brew car, I think that's Gareth Lennon. I can't tell from the T-bars. We're going into the first corner here. Let's see who's going to make a move. Who's going to mind your manners, boys. Teammates second and third. You got a good opportunity here as we see one of the other WSR cars. Here's we take a look at the position change right there. Yep, that is Joshua Wood and the Danny Diaz or Melngailis up ahead. Reinis had that terrible start. As we see Joshua Wood going to go on the inside of Danny Diaz. He's going to make the move stick. Can Danny get the exit he wanted? He will. And so there you go right there. Danny Diaz says, nope, I am not done with that position though here. So as we take at the Welshman of Colin Spencer behind Joshua Wood, his ex-teammate, and of course his current teammate behind him. So kind of another one of those instances that we had in Australia here. And, obviously Spencer wants to, regain his ground so he have a decent finish like he had in Australia. But just kind of a difficult qualifying effort from a lot of these guys you saw up at the front at Australia, though, Toby.
Yeah, no, difficult qualifying. Of course, first time we're seeing these cars run at potentially maximum downforce through the tricky S-bend we're coming out of there. Look at Callum Spencer using all the track and a little bit more to close up on Josh Wood in front of him. He'll want to pass him as soon as he can because the field's still relatively bunched together, and he'll be able to make the most of it if he stays where he is right about now. We can see even Chester Jackson has dropped off so much already. That just shows the extent of the front wing damage, even after a repair job. You can see it's not all the way repaired. You can still see the springs on the front of the front wing where it mounts to the nose of the car, and you can see that it's taken so much damage that even now he's struggling to stay close. But we're watching, I think this is Reinis Melngailis, it is, with Taylor Lane, I believe, is behind. So Taylor Lane's another good starter. Starting at the back is obviously proving worthwhile as he's been able to make up so many positions during all that chaos. But Reinis Melngailis right up behind him, nothing doing for now, and we can just ride on board with the rear wing. What a lovely camera angle from the ISR Black Diamond car. But we come up into the very quick left-hander. And it's all hair and square right about now. Everyone's just following. Look at that as well, Zach. From 8th to 4th in favour of Christopher Pettersson, another great starter. And somewhere along the line, that Eben Imre has lost 2 positions to Colin McAllister and Christopher Pettersson. That's another one. Colin McAllister went really far down on the first lap, didn't he? But he's been able to get himself back up. So very good safety car restart for McAllister and Pettersson.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I don't know when they threw the safety car, Toby. I just got to point this out, though. They Iron Brood Boys restarted 2nd and 3rd, even though they fell behind back. So I honestly don't know when the stewards decided to throw the safety car, if we just got a late notification or the drivers got a late notification. But they fell all the way back, I think. I could be wrong on this, but they restarted this race 2nd and 3rd. So honestly, we may have to go back through the footage later on and see what exactly happened. But, that's the only reason why they, caught back up is I think they restarted 2nd and 3rd. But if I'm not mistaken, though, like I said, they just fell all the way back because they had that coming together through. And then, they fell
that's
behind. Yeah, definitely. That is a very, very late move right there from Reinis Melngailis. But he made it stick there. So Taylor Lane in the Matlock car is going to come under pressure from, believe that is Danny Diaz actually behind him, because Chester Jackson had the wing damage here. And so that was a very, very late move, but he made it work. So very good driving from Reinis Melngailis. As we're right on board now with Tom Spencer chasing down Joshua Wood. Kind of fell back just a little bit. As we go back now to the field, we're looking at Danny Diaz. He's going to try to make a move on Taylor Lane. Taylor Lane came under pressure from Reinis Melngailis in the first corner. Not much going on right now. Taylor Lane, you talk about him actually having a good qualifying run, and actually, he's made up some ground actually throughout the first corner chaos. He's actually proved his point throughout, and I believe this could be a good signing that Douglas Anderson for the beautiful looking Matlock cars. So hopefully he can have something, a better performance than Kevin Jacobs did at the Matlock team there with Douglas Anderson. So just have to keep an eye on him through the season, though.
Taylor Lane, I believe, was a 2011 champion. I will try and look up at that information, but he was a Formula. Look at this. Callum Spencer, by the way, trying to go all the way around the outside of Josh Wood in the final corner. Surely not. Josh Wood, surely you can't let that happen. That'd be too easy for him. But now he's not. But look at the run. Callum Spencer gets to spite, taking the wider line. He's all over the back of Josh Wood, looking to the inside. Surely he's going to be able to get the move done into turn 1. Yes, he can. If anyone can make a move like that, it's Callum Spencer. Up the inside he goes and forces Josh Wood wide. That's going to allow his teammate, maybe with a tactical play there from Callum Spencer to allow his teammate to have an attack on Josh Wood. But no, Josh Wood realised what was going on, covered the inside line almost immediately and stopped that going on there. So that was tactical by Callum Spencer, purposely forcing out Wood wide after he made the move to give his teammate of Carrera behind a chance to attack into turn 2. But Josh was wise to what was going on and managed to shut the door just in time. And now Carrera will have to settle in behind Wood. As we come into the tricky S-bend sector, you can see that Danny Diaz looks like he's gaining a little bit on that Taylor Lane situation we was talking about.
Yeah, he is, and that was, going back to that Spencer move right there that he made on Joshua Wood. It's something because Joshua Wood, he's not really familiar with this track. Colin Spencer is. Colin Spencer has a lot of knowledge, being an actual F1 fan and playing this track through, the Formula 1 games, and so he's going to have a lot of track knowledge, unlike Joshua Wood, and so he's going to know where and when to make the moves and when not to make the moves. Which that tricky S-bend is a place that you definitely don't want to try to make a move, because there's just not enough room between the sausage curves, and you're already making a right to left, and it's just making it very, very difficult. As you're on board now with Danny Diaz behind Taylor Lane, trying to get the toe. To hopefully to be able to make a move. And will he make the move? I believe he thinks better of it. He does gain a lot of time on Taylor Lane. Those were on board with Taylor Lane, actually. And just looking behind them, though, Toby, you see Colin Spencer. He's going to gain up on these two guys, because these two guys look like they're about to have a feisty little dogfight in front of Spencer. And so Spence, being the veteran that he is, he's going to hang back and just let them fight it out.
Yeah, it was a case of using the element of surprising. You can see Taylor Lane's pace isn't very good, because you can just see in the background when we pan back over there as we look at Zach Swader in the lead, looking quite comfortable right now. Gareth Lennon applying a little bit of pressure, but not enough to phase Swader at this stage in the race. But if we get the pan shot back there, you can see just how much of a gap Reinis Melngailis has been able to pull on Taylor Lane since getting past him. So I'm sure we'll see that a bit later on, and you can see what I'm talking about. But Taylor Lane's pace isn't very good, despite him, and obviously he had a bad qualifying, so despite him having a good start, his race pace is starting to show again, and he's starting to fall down a little bit down the order, and those guys behind him are faster cars at this stage in the race. There's Reinis Melngailis, looking, there is the gap to Taylor Lane, so he's been able to clear him quite sufficiently, but I think you're eager to commentate over an overtake, and it might happen this time, so just in case, I'll hand it back to you.
So here we go, Danny Diaz going for the toe once again. I think he might be just a little bit too far, but I say that, he might have the actual top speed. He's going to chuck it down the inside, contact with Taylor Lane as Danny Diaz kind of hooks on the right rear tire right there, but Taylor Lane defends off, and that is actually what Colin Spencer is wanting to see behind, especially now outside Danny Diaz going on the inside of the corner, and I think Taylor Lane might have had a little bit of a downforce issue right there, as I think he, I don't know if he's got a damage from that, and he kind of went wide, the car just washed up, and that allowed Danny Diaz to get ahead of him, so now Taylor Lane's going to come under pressure from Colin Spencer now, and if Danny Diaz has the faster car, which it looks like he does, I think Taylor Lane may have some damage. I don't know if he came under contact through the first incident. As Colin Spencer, we talked about this. You don't want to, this one is not really known for making a move, but Colin Spencer, being the veteran he is, makes the move on the outside. What a move from Colin Spencer. The veteran, the ISR veteran, makes the move in the tricky spot, as Taylor Lane looked a bit frustrated on that and looked to try to make another move, but just wasn't enough room there to do it. But what a move. That is obviously going to be one of the nominees for Move of the Year, as that's probably, ladies and gentlemen, the most excited you've probably ever heard me on AIC. That is the most intelligent move from Spencer. What a move. And I am speechless that he actually made it into that corner, because that corner is just so tricky now. Back on board now with Zach Swear. Looks like he's going to try to gain a little bit of a gap. You notice there the Sonic the Hedgehog logo right there. That's kind of a homage to his background on PlayStation. If you think is known as the Sonic X49, obviously, and of course his teammate Joshua Wood has a Yeti because of his Grand Theft Auto Mr. Yeti. So a lot of these drivers have these cool little stickers and homages to their background. So it's just something that they decided, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and make this a bit more personal. But as you can see, I think he's starting to gain a bit ground to Gareth Lennon, though, Toby. So I'll go ahead and hand it back off to you, since, I've actually been kind of taking over a little bit, just the excitement of this race, obviously. Like we said in the pre-race, this race never failed. I mean, real life's Formula GP2, and it's showing well in AIC right now.
It is proving pretty good for the first time we visit Hungary on our calendar, but going back to the Callum Spencer move, that could have been what we was talking about, a little bit of a difference between seeing a high downforce setup and a low downforce setup in action, and you could just see how much more grip Callum Spencer had to go all the way around the outside, and it was a phenomenal move as we ride on board with Nickel Foggy as we approach the final corner, but it was an absolutely phenomenal move nonetheless, and showing that I think the high downforce, we're starting to see the high downforce cars have the better races, so I think high downforce was the better way to go, but it's been the low downforce cars that have been able to make the moves into turn one, hasn't it? Like Reinis Melngailis, Callum Spencer is running high downforce and therefore had a bit of more of a fight to get the job done into turn one, and we can see this is not a place to be. Back there, is it, for a championship contender last season and the season one champion? It's really sad to see them back in 18th and 19th, but that's why you keep your nose clean on lap one and try avoid these fights. And going back to that was very close for Kevin Jacobs, wasn't it, when Evans hit Jacobs in front of him? He had to almost duck to avoid the rear wing flying at him through that corner, so a bit scary, and maybe that would be an argument for the Halo in some senses. Luckily for us, it's virtual, and we don't have to think about that. But in real life, that would have been the Halo proving its point, I think. But we can see Gareth Lennon just trying to apply some pressure to Sweder, but it's just not happening at the moment. Sweder looks too comfortable. Another man who's having a good race, Charles McBee, Zach. Well, we need to talk about Charles McBee, because his race ended after a single corner in Australia. A man who's challenged for race wins, a man who's taken podiums, and was effectively the backbone of GTFG last season. Stephen Paul had a shocker of a season, but Charles McBee stuck that car in places it didn't deserve to be, on the podiums and stuff. Now he's out there having a better race ahead of his teammate in the points, I believe. He's having a bit of a better time out there as we start lap 11, but it's better to see him up fighting for points than it was to see him in the walls after a single corner.
Yeah, and that was a tough break at Australia. Everyone just, going to the first corner, like Australia is known for, be, just ended up like in the wall. And of course, as you said, what would Richard Petty do? And this would be something that Richard Petty would do if he had a DNF or a tailable race. He would go back out there and get a better performance, and that's something that Charles V is actually doing today. So it's a very, very good recovery. I'm not exactly sure what position, because like we said, we had to unfortunately get rid of that new HUD that we had in Australia because of the frame stutter that we had in the first race here. But thankfully, though, our editors and the help through our AIC insider people, as we call got the frame stutter underway. So unfortunately, we don't have access to live, the feeds and the positions and the timings on the left side of the screen. But so I'm not exactly sure when they are. But yeah, it's a very, very good performance though for Charles McBean nonetheless.
Yeah, another good performance. We're riding on board with Chris Petterson as well at the moment. He will be getting, and this will be NORL's first points for quite some time. Probably since the final in Hockenheim last season. They didn't score any points in Australia because it was snapped away from him, wasn't it? Just at the end by Nut Martinson, who's having a shocker of a race today, so he didn't have to worry about that. But yeah, it was stolen in a heartbeat by Nut Martinson. Bit of a shame for Chris Petterson, but he's up there sticking the car in fourth, showing why he's a valuable asset to NORL. Kevin Jacobs, some people still think that's a bit of a controversial move. A lot of people didn't think he was ready to move up to the senior team of NORL, and his performance thus far has kind of showed, in my opinion, that he's not been quite ready. But we'll see how he adapts for the rest of the season. But Chris Petterson really learning from all his experience in front-wheel drive Siroccos to rear-wheel drive DTM monsters. He's really showing his experience in these open-wheel cars. He recently became the first ever four-time NORL Series champion back in NORL, so congratulations, Chris, on that one. And you're looking like you're on for a good result today in P4, so great job all around by the Swede and the Italian machine. But right now we can see, is this Byrne or Melngailis chasing down Nickel Foggy? I can't quite tell, but we are trying to watch that. And Gareth Lennon looking like he's... No, sorry, that's Colin McAllister really dropping off and starting to come into the clutches of Petterson's.
Yeah, Christopher Petterson, like we were talking about, everybody was actually shocked, after the last race in the DTM at Hockenheim, Valeria Campagnari had a really good race, and everybody thought he was going to stick around for one more season. But I guess the season as a whole, Toby, decided for Campagnari that he just wasn't cut out for this type of competition, and he felt like his performances were not respected enough around the team. And so I guess he decided, what, I'm just going to sit back as an owner, as a mentor for these new guys. Of course, as you talked about, like Kevin Jacobs and like Christopher Petterson. And, Christopher Petterson being the season one veteran of AIC, being along with Campagnari, it has shown. And he's really done a fantastic job, especially today, actually. As you saw, he's going to be trying to challenge Colin McAllister up at the podium. So it'll be interesting to see if he can have enough time to do that. But yeah, very interesting story for NRL, as you were talking about. Kevin Jacobs. After that incident that he had in Curitiba, a lot of people questioned him because of his maturity and the way he came back out on the track. And of course, that ended up, I believe it was Evan Imre that caught the worst end of the brunt after that. And a lot of people started to think, okay, this kid thinks he's going to be something. He's already making moves like that. And it has kind of shown, but hopefully he can kind of mature and be, a bit more wise in his decisions. And that's something that I believe both Campagnari and Kevin Jacobs can help him with here. But coming through the end of the field right now, back looking at Zach Swader, not a lot has changed up in the front here. Gareth Lennon is sitting nicely in second, though, but his teammate, like we were talking about just a second ago, Colin McAllister, he'll be coming under pressure from Christopher Petterson here, and behind him, as we were talking about, is Evan Imre. And Evan Imre, as we saw, was the person that got involved with that, I believe, the situation with Kevin Jacobs. So looking to see Evan Imre, he's having kind of pull his weight, though, Toby. Let's talk about that for a second before the race. Nut Martinson could be the only person to be the repeat champion, but it's just his past couple of performances, Toby. He finished, I think it was, in the podium, or not on the podium, but in the points in 10th at Australia. Having a very terrible race today, though, Toby, because I believe he got involved in the lap 1 scrap. So not a good day for him, but a pretty good, solid performance for his teammate, though, for his Vizzy.
Yeah, Fizzy had a really bad season 2, but he came back for season 1 and he had one of the best drives I think we've ever seen in the AIC. Last 10th, given the circumstances and the short race time that he had to do it, he made an incredible progress and one of the history book drive for how good it was. But yeah, here he had a good qualifying, but of course got caught out in all the checking up because Evan Imre went down the inside, lost the rear, which forced Gareth Lennon to go wide, which caused him to hit his teammate, which caused GTFG, I think, of Stephen Paul to check up. And he just got caught out by all of that and lost his front wing. So a bit unlucky, and I'm sure he'll be coming back for Magny-Cours. But we are on our final lap of the Hungarian race, and it's calmed down a little bit. And I think that could be a course of us talking about high downforce cars, obviously generate dirty air. So I think as the race goes on, the tyre wear I think is notorious around here as well. It's quite high, and these guys are electing to not. They're free to make pit stops, but obviously the quicker way is to not make pit stops. So they're going around on pretty old tyres, I would say, Zach, at this point. And combine that with dirty air, and you can kind of see why the racing's died down a little bit. But the opening laps were astonishing. We've seen some amazing moves, and next time out in Magny-Cours, we'll see a similar race, I'm sure, because of the high downforce characteristics of that track and this track. And same with Taruma. Taruma's going to be incredibly quick and incredibly downforce orientated. But we're coming up and we're looking at this man, Zach Swader, the man who has done the job like no one else could today. Look at the gap he's pulled on Lennon. No one was really going to challenge him here today. He used the safety car restart to perfection, and he will come home to take his first win of the season and WSR Mercedes' first ever win in the ISR AIC. Checkered flag for him. Great job for Swader. Great job for WSR. Gareth Lennon will bring home another podium, and that will play dividends in the championship standings. That's the most consistent driver out of everyone right now, Gareth Lennon. And a first ever podium for Colin McAllister. So following on the back of Toby Byrne's first ever podium, now Colin McAllister takes his first ever podium, and Iron Brew are back and finally competing at the front. But WSR had a rebrand, had a new change of personnel, and they've done it. Zach Swader takes the win from Gareth Lennon, Zach, and there is the rest of your field.
Colin McAllister, you said, gets his first podium, so an Iron Brew 2 and 3 respectively, and Gareth Lennon with the kind of terrible performances that we've had from everyone else. So underneath them, Zach Swader, who I think finished 4th, behind the field at Australia, so he'll gain a lot with this win today. But Gareth Lennon could be our new points leader coming out of today. And now through the field, Evan Imre 5th, Nick Foggy 6th, Toby Byrne 7th, having finished in 3rd, and Douglas Anderson, we haven't talked about him today though. He finishes 8th though, and through the field we talked about there, Callum Spencer finishes 13th, and so he's going to be looking for a resurgence here hopefully throughout the rest of the season. Joshua Wood, Zach's teammate, finishes 15th, Jonathan Carrero 16th. Kevin Jacobs and Craig Evans had some pretty unfortunate incidents. Of course, Craig Evans was in the pits with Chester Jackson, who finished last place. And as we were talking about, Nud Partition finished in the back here. So looking at the driver standings, as I thought, Gareth Lennon will be our new points leader coming out of today. But he's just 3 points ahead of Zach Swader with the win today. And so it'll be pretty interesting to see throughout if these guys can keep it up with the Iron Brew cars. But Reinis Melngailis, though, comes back. He will be in 3rd place, ahead of his teammate Toby Byrne in 4th, Nick Foggy in 5th place. And Colin McAllister gains up into 6th place with his 3rd place finish today, though, Toby. And as we take a look now, Iron Brew will come ahead of ISR through the team standings with their podium finish. So there you go, Toby. Something interesting here. Both of the teams up that were in the team standings have both the cars end up in the podium. So a very, very interesting couple of races here, Toby, for the team standings as we take a look now as WSR comes into 3rd here. But kind of looking through, not a lot of change, but those are mostly the big movers. Mevius JSR with the unfortunate ones this weekend, so they could be having a struggle for a team season if they can't get anything turned around here. But GTFG, though, Toby, actually gained a little bit today with both their guys actually finishing pretty well today.
Yeah, and the only team, Zach, left to score a point is your former team of Team EQU, really struggling from the back end of DTM Season 2 and now into Season 3, really, really struggling. Could it be the driver lineup? Could it be something more fundamental? We're not sure. But coming up, next, happening later tonight if you stay tuned to the ISS social channels. That's ISS Super GT Round 5 at the Blue Moon Bay, USA. And for us, Zach, next week it is ISR AIC Season 3, round number 3. We was talking about it, another high downforce circuit of Magny-Cours in France, former host of many GP2 races, and of course the old French Grand Prix. I'm very much looking forward to that one, but that's where the AIC will be heading next time out. Gareth Lennon does lead your driver standings, and Iron Brew find themselves in unfamiliar territory up at the very tippity top of the constructor standings. So without further ado, Zach, who would go for your driver of the day?
Well, I know there was plenty of good overtakes here, and hats off Colin Spencer, but unfortunately he's not my driver of the day. I'm actually picking Colin because he had a good weekend. You know, he started on the podium, finishes on the podium, his first podium of the AIC as a whole, so it's a fantastic drive for him. So it's very nice to see Iron Brew actually coming back from the struggles they've had since Season 1, and it's finally nice to see them and really getting a lot of these, actually some of these lower teams getting up into the podium spots, as we talked about, you know, with a few others. But Iron Brew, Colin McAllister today is my driver of the day, Toby.
Yeah, well, that's a very decent guess, and I would say that's a good fair shout. For me, it's going to be Christopher Pettersson, because NORL really needed the points, and he was up in a tougher field, managed to make it from 8th to 3rd, and overall it's been a very good weekend for Christopher Pettersson. It's really what NRL needed to get back to their former glory days. But as we say, Magny-Cours for round 3 next time out, another high downforce circuit. Can Zach do the double? Will Reinis Melngailis bounce back and take the victory again? Or will we see someone new and the completely other shuffle of the grid? It wouldn't be the AIC if we didn't have a shuffle now and again in the grid order. So very much looking forward to that one, Zach. Thank you ever so much for joining me here today. And until next time in Magny-Cours, it's goodbye from me, goodbye from Zach, goodbye from everyone here in the AIC. And see you next time.